We live in the Pacific Northwest, and our doormats and our whole front door platform here was always soaking wet because when they built the house, there's only about a foot, maybe a foot and a half of overhang. So we're building a roof. So here we've got the basic structure up, so I'll explain how we did this. Okay, so when we started, the first thing we did is we dug some holes in the ground so it's going to be level, and then when we're done we'll cover that with some rocks. So we dug some holes in the ground, and then we've got these, we wanted to use these round posts here. So what we did is we used these cement blocks that have this metal plate already cemented in. You buy them at the store already like this. So some of them have one for a square post. This just has one single metal plate. That's the kind you want for the round posts. And then we put this bolt through, so it's got a nice heavy head to hold it on that side. So what we did is actually, once we had those bolts in, these poles pretty much stood on their own. I mean, they weren't super secure, but they stood without any other support. So once those were up, then what you do is, to the rafters of the house, we screwed this board that goes the length of however long you want to make it. So the reason what we did here is that we put 2 screws in each one, and this is going to give us a good strong support to put our cross beams. Then the next thing we do is you come up on one of the ends, and you want to make sure this is a 90 degree. Use your T-square to make sure that's a perfect 90 degree angle. And so we screwed that. Actually, let me back up. Before we did that, we cut these at an angle. You can see, I'll hold the camera level. You can see they're cut at an angle. See that angle there? So we cut the posts at an angle, and we just set this on the top. So what you can do is, when you set that there, you can put some little tiny screws just to hold it. This kind of makes the structure a little more sound. So I would recommend putting some little tiny screws in there. You're going to put some heavy duty screws at the end. But for now, just a couple of those. And what that does is, when you're installing this beam, it gives it something to set on. So the weight of this board can set, it's resting on this. What you do here, make sure you've got a 90 degree, right here, 90 degrees. And then what I do is I put 1 screw in first, then I make sure I have the 90 degree, because if you just have 1 screw in, you've got some play, you can move it back and forth. So I put 1 screw in to help me hold it. Then I move it to 90 degrees and then put in my second screw. Once I had the boards on either end, so I've got the one on that end and the one on the extreme end, once those are in place, we had Dad hold up this post and make it level. So let's see, where's our level? So what he did is he stood here and made sure these were level on, you want to make sure it's level on 2 sides, right? On here, and then you turn it 90 degrees and make sure it's level there. So we made sure that was level, and then as soon as he said that was level, then I put a screw from the end board into the cross beam, and then that kind of holds it in place. So from then on it's sturdy. Then you go to the other corner, do the same thing. You make sure the post is 90 to make sure it's level on 2 sides, and then have one person holds that. Once you make sure it's level, the other person screws those 2 together. So now the structure is somewhat stable. Up to this point it's been very kind of rickety. You got to be real careful. At that point it's somewhat stable. Good morning, everybody. So we didn't finish last night, so we're back at it today. What we ended up doing is I shortened one of the ends to make them even, and I added a few extra of these cross beams. I figured it would give it a little more support. I don't think I had enough to make it strong, so now we've got one about every foot or so. This is the basic structure of the roof. Now what we're going to do is put up our plywood on the top of that. So we got to measure this and then cut the plywood to size, since we made the roof a little smaller than originally planned. Okay, so I'm measuring now how far the plywood would be, and what I've got is 70.5 inches. So I'm going to make it 72 inches. Because you want a little overhang, so I figure 3/4 of an inch is a good enough amount. Okay, so I'm measuring the plywood to cut here. I've got 6 feet. Helps me keep it straight. And I already marked it from the other side, so now we just got to connect them. So we just pushed the plywood up, and then on each side we left about 3/4 inch of overhang on each end. And what we did here is these ends that are exposed, we're going to put a cross beam across there to cover those as well. So that'll be one of the next steps we do. But first, time to fasten down the board. Earlier is I pre-drilled this and have the screw ready to go. And above that is this beam from the house, one of the cross beams. So I was waiting for the plywood to get put in. So then what we can do now is drill that right into the beam. I found some little screws. You want to kind of eyeball them and make sure they're gonna go through here. And if you can see from this angle, that's not going to go all the way through, so that's pretty good. That's what we want. We're just going to put probably 3 screws down each support beam just to kind of hold her in place. So here we've got our pack of shingles. Usually 1 pack of shingles is made to cover a whole sheet of plywood, so we should have plenty of extra. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out a couple of these to get started. And I don't know if this is a recommended way to do it, but I'm going to be using staples. I figure it's not the roof of the house, so if there's an issue, it's easy to fix and it's not going to cause a disaster. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just overlapping these in the middle by a few inches so it doesn't hang out too far on the end. And also I think that should keep it fairly dry in the middle. And what you do is you overlap each one. There's a line drawn on them when you buy them. So you bring each one down. The bottom should cover that line by a little bit. Kind of gives you an idea of where to position them. Okay, so I'm on my last set of shingles, and what I'm going to do is, since we're tucking these up under the eaves, I won't have a way to staple them down because you don't want the staples exposed to the rain because it can eventually leak. So what I'm going to do is just use a little bit of glue. I'm going to put a little glue on the back and then tuck them under, and I think that should hold them in place. Okay, so what we got here is where the ends show. Originally we were going to put this up flat like that, but we decided it would look better like this. So it makes the porch look a little stronger. So what I did is I went ahead and I held this up and used a pin to mark the center of each stud. And then I pre-drilled the holes and got the screws ready, so you can see they all line up. So what we're going to do next is hold it up here and screw it in. So the only thing left to do is we're going to stain it to match this cool wooden sign that we got. So we're going to have a kind of a stained wood look. So here you have it. Here's the final product. We've got the roofing on. We've got the wood all nice and stained, and we are really happy with how it looks. It makes a really nice addition to our house. So if you're thinking of doing one, I highly recommend it.